rocking.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah. What is going on, everybody? Hello. How's it going? Welcome to On the Pipe Podcast. Today is Tuesday, May the 23rd, 2023, years after zero. And I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepperton, and you are joining me just in time for another episode of On the Pipe Podcast. I know it is Tuesday, but this is not an OTP Tuesday. This is more of an OTP's weekend review. We're going to talk about the racing that was and maybe some of the racing that will be. And I want to apologize that we are coming to you a day late and $1 short. Actually, a squirrel or some type of animal chewed through the power lines that fed my my new shop, screen printing shop, and the new podcast studio. So when I got here, everything was going wonky. The outlets weren't working. The lights were flickering, going all on and off. I just got back in town over the weekend, so I've actually been gone for 2 weeks. And when I got back, everything was wonky. So we got in here yesterday, prepared to do a show, and there's no internet, there's no lights, and everything was going haywire. And so I wasn't able to do a show yesterday, but we got Duke Power out here. We got it all fixed and ready to go today. So we're going to bring you a weekend review. We're going to talk about this past weekend, and we're also going to talk about the weekend before last. So 9 days ago, I guess that would be 8 days ago. What's that? Today's Tuesday. 9 days ago. We'll talk about that weekend as well. So the weekend before last, we had the National Hare and Hound going on out on the West Coast, and we had the National Enduro that happened in Virginia on the East Coast. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're also going to talk about the weekend that was just a couple of days ago where we saw the Penton GNCC out here in Ohio. And out on the left coast, it was the NGPC, the National Grand Prix series that happened. So we're going to talk about all of that racing action. We're going to walk you through the results and what happened so you can stay in the loop with your off-road racing knowledge, because that's what we do here at OTP. So thank you so much for joining me. Just wanted to give you a rundown of the show. I also want to throw out a disclaimer. We're probably going to start this thing off talking a little bit about me. Sorry about it. If you want to skip through this whole first part, I understand, and just pick up on the race results, do what you need to do. I ain't blaming you one bit. Just trying to let you know a good understanding of what we're getting into tonight. So that is what we got on the docket. That is what we got on the agenda. I guess first we'll preface this with what all's been going on. So, and I kind of went back and forth on whether to talk about this stuff, whether to not talk about this stuff, because, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a dirt bike podcast. You guys tune in to listen to dirt bikes, but it's also a podcast that I kind of started and have put a lot of my time and energy and effort into, and at the end of the day, it's not a podcast you just happen to stumble upon. Like, people, I think people discover us weekly, monthly, daily, however you want to see it, and they go back and look at some episodes and then join us in the future, but it's all people that like dirt bikes, so I don't think we're going to have any people that are just happening upon this that aren't already involved in this world. So try to keep it about dirt bikes and less about myself, but at the end of the day, it's my show, and I can't help but to talk about the things that are on my mind, and it has recently come to my attention that some people might not like that, so just giving you a little bit of warning this time if you want to go ahead and skip forward. But last week, we did not do a show, and I did mention the week prior to that I was going out of town and it was going to be tough for me to schedule a show. What I did not think about is that I went out to California. My girlfriend and I, we flew into Vegas, and then we rented a car, and we're driving up through California. So this is kind of a two-part thing, but I guess the first part of it is that I did not account, because my plan was like, oh, we're going to have a lot of time on the road. We're going to be driving. I'm going to be able to call people. I can record it directly from the car, no worries, or record and then post it when we get to the hotel. No problem. And then I brought my microphone. I brought my computer, brought everything that I needed specifically to try to get the podcast back on a regular scheduled program. And it did not dawn on me until we were out there that the reason that we were doing this is to go to all the different national parks. And one thing about national parks is that they don't put them in the cities. And one thing about not being in the cities and being up in the mountains out in a place that is as vast as California is that there is not very good cell phone signal. So I was like, well, kind of hard to talk to people on the phone when you have no phone signal or a way to talk or communicate or do anything that involves the internet. So that is why the shows did not pan out last week. The week before. I did go into it with full intentions to do that, and then with the time change, it was like borderline impossible to do it at the end of the night because we were hiking and everything during the day. And then when we got back to the hotel, it's a 3-hour time difference. So everyone out here on the East Coast, it'd be midnight, 11 o'clock. So it's hard to line things up. And but anyway, so that is the reason from that. So the parts of that I wanted to say, and I wanted to encourage people about, we travel a lot. And by we, I mean racers. Anyone that is listening to this, you probably follow along to these races. And if you don't follow along to these races, it's probably because life has hit you with a busy schedule to where you can't make the time to get out and go to the races every weekend. And then you get to that point where like, if I can't go to all of them, what's the point going to one of them? Blah, blah, blah. I understand that. I get that. But part of the reason I wanted to share that sentiment kind of ties me into the next part of why we missed last week's program. And it's that life is short. Life is precious. And as you all know that have been listening to the show for a while, I'm over a year now that I left my full-time job. A big guise of me leaving, it was my choice. Leaving my full-time job was because of some of these reasons. I mean, once again, I hate to talk about me when everyone's tuning into this podcast to listen to stuff about dirt bikes, but I got to the point where the stress was unbearable, unbelievable, and I had 2 weeks of vacation per year at my job, which I never used for vacation because that was also your sick time, your vacation time, your take your pets to the veterinarian time. And so the whole time I worked there, I never really got a vacation because all my vacation time was used for life needs. But yeah, just the stress and all that stuff, it kind of built up, and it was culminating into a point where I needed to get a new job. And with that being the case, I was like, well, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to enjoy this. I turned 30 last year, so I was like, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this year. I set a deadline for myself. I was like, I'm either going to figure it out or construction's still going to be there and I'm going to get another job. What I found out in the course of that process is this has been the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. I know that the mental health thing and depression and all that stuff is a little bit of a taboo subject. Most places in the world. It's something that I've struggled with. I've struggled with it my entire life, and I know why. Like, I have the understanding behind it, and I think that makes it easier to deal with it and recognize it. But besides that, it allowed me to do things that I never thought that I would do. When I was working my job, I was leaving my house 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. I was getting home 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. And it's really what all my time and energy and focus went to. I was the lone safety director, the lone safety guy for a construction company with, at one point, more than 70-something employees. And I was the only safety professional in that. So managing hundreds of jobs that we do throughout the year, there's one safety guy that has to be involved with every single one of those jobs. It got to the point where it was tough. And the hours were tough and the work was tough, but then my life was just flying by. Like, I noticed that time was just flying by. And, like, I would wake up and be like, holy crap, how is it May? I feel like New Year's was 2 weeks ago. And then spreading myself thin, admittedly, doing everything that I do for the races, filming the races, announcing for Full Gas, announcing for Mid-East now, doing all this stuff. So I'd work Monday through Friday, load up on Friday, head to a race, be there all day Sunday, race ends Sunday evening, get in the car, drive home. If it's a local race, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours home, and then you can kind of get bed at a decent time after you unload your stuff, wash it, do all that stuff, to wake up at 5 o'clock Monday morning and go to work. If it was an overnight race, like a GNCC, then you're driving through the night. I'm getting home 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, taking a nap, waking up at 5 o'clock, getting up, getting ready to go for work, struggling through that whole day. And then coming home Monday night, not having the time, energy, or effort to clean up your stuff. So then it's choose, do I clean up from the weekend, or do I go get some sleep, get to bed early, do it tomorrow? And then you wake up, it's Wednesday, Thursday, and your stuff is still sitting dirty in the garage or whatever, what have you. It got to the point where all of that stuff kind of culminated. And like I said, I had the plan to just go through it and go back, get a job at the beginning of this year, no harm, no foul. But what I ran into is that I did the things that I always wanted to do. Last year, I went to Egypt on a whim. Literally booked a ticket on Monday and went there on Thursday. Toured all of Egypt. Went down to announce Terra Inferno and filmed Terra Inferno that Travis Pastrana and Ryan Sipes put on. All the best guys from all over the world down in the Dominican Republic. So we got to stay there for free at the hotel and watch these races and film these races and be a part of these races. Explored all over the North Carolina mountains. I don't know. It was a cool experience to be able to think of something to do and go do it. And that's kind of how that whole trip happened this past week. When we went to California, we went to 5 national parks within 1 week time period. We had 8 national parks that were on the docket, so we were supposed to do 8 of them. We did 5 national parks. We were in Las Vegas, LA, San Francisco. And the point I'm getting at is that I think our ticket out there was less than $200 a piece. The rental car, it was like a little bit of a discount. So the rental car for like the whole 10 days was like $200 or $300. Gas was more expensive out on the West Coast, but then also like hotels ended up being a lot cheaper than I thought they would be. I think we only paid more than $100 at one hotel, and that was in downtown like right next to the water in downtown San Francisco. I think it was like $104, and that was the only hotel that was over $100. But my point being is that I didn't realize how cost effectively that you can travel, that you can do things, that you can go out and see the world and see these things. And for me, that has been one thing that I've really enjoyed doing. And my girlfriend has been to all 7 continents. She lived in a couple different places in Europe. She's been to Antarctica. She's been all over Africa. And so she's kind of the one that really opened my eyes to traveling. And because I always thought, man, you got to have $5,000 to go on one of those trips. I can't do that. But Egypt, I think Egypt, all said and done, with a guided tour, with hotels for 10 days, traveling for 10 days, a cruise up and down the Nile River, entrance fees into every single park and monument and thing that we went to, food, drinks, flights, everything. I think all in was, $1,500. That was the most expensive thing. But show me somewhere where you can travel in America for 10 days. That includes food, hotel, and traveling. I mean, that included a flight. We flew from northern Egypt to southern Egypt and then got on a boat and cruised up the Nile River the whole way up. That was food and drinks, everything included. Find me a place in America that you can do that for 10 days. I don't know. So I guess the point that I'm getting at is the reason that I did not do a show last week is because we were on this trip out in California. We were on our way to all the national parks, and I got a call that my grandmother, my mom's mom, my last living grandparent, was actually in hospice. And a lot of the emotions are kind of hitting me right now just thinking about it. And got the call that she was in hospice. We were actually in San Francisco when it happened, and it's something that we knew was coming. It's something that we knew was going on, but it's tough because it was my grandparent that I'm the closest with, and like I said, it was my last living grandparent that I had. All my grandparents on my dad's side, we had went our entire life growing up, and there was no like real deaths in the family or deaths of anyone close. And then all of a sudden, my dad, all four of his parents, so mom, stepdad, dad, stepmom, all four of his parents died within, it was like a year and a half time frame, like literally, like back to back to back to back. And then his brother, my uncle, passed away as well. So that was really like the first big hits. And I'll never forget the first grandparent that I lost. I was announcing my first ever race. So I just got hired on with GNCC to announce with them. And I was announcing my first race because I got a local motocross announcing job at Motivated at the time in Gaston, South Carolina. It was Palmetto before that. It was GTR. Now it's something else. I forget what, Masters Motoplex now. Anyway, you know the place, Gaston, South Carolina. I was there announcing a race when I got the call that my grandparent died. My grandmother died. And that was the first one. And it's like every single other one of the four and my uncle, like the funerals and everything like that, they're always on the weekends. And we're traveling for races and doing that stuff on the weekends. It makes it tough. So I missed pretty much all of those because of racing and because of announcing and that being a way to make extra money, make income, and do all the stuff and be able to cover it for the podcast. And so now, fast forward, my last living grandparent, the one that I was the closest with, get the call, she's in hospice. And so I was like, man, do we finish the trip? Do we go now? What do we do? And it's one of those things where, like, my grandmother, if she was all with it and all there, she probably would have cussed me out for canceling our trip and cutting it short and going back to Florida, where my mom and her and a lot of my other family live. She probably would have cussed me out for me going back there to see her instead of finishing my trip. But at the time, felt like it was what I was needed to do, and I'm glad that I did because I got to get those last moments, and she knew I was there. She recognized us. She talked to us. And had I waited till after the trip, wouldn't have got that. So don't regret it one moment. But the point that I was getting at, especially explaining the money, explaining all that stuff, there is a whole world out there. There is a world that you can see and a world that you can travel. My grandmother and her husband, who passed away a few years ago, they were truck drivers, and they always told me about out west. And my grandfather even told me, he said, I told him the first van I bought, I was like, I'm taking that thing out west, and I'm gonna road trip and just bounce around and do it. And he said, don't do it. And I said, why not? He said, because you'll never come back. And that was I always remember him saying that, and I never did it until now. We, like I said, drove from Las Vegas all the way up to San Francisco, hit all the national parks in between, and it is the best trip that I ever had in my life. And then I'm not gonna say that it sucks to end it the way that it did. I feel like that would be a little bit crass in saying, but that is not the ending that I would have wrote for it. But that is the way that it ended. We cut it short, flew back, actually had a layover in Charlotte, so my girlfriend was able to just go home, and I got on the connecting flight, went down to Florida, and was there with my mom and for my family, and everything. But I guess the two pieces of this is that a lot of people, like I said, it's taboo to talk about mental health. It's taboo to talk about what's going right, what's going wrong. But me personally, and going through that stuff and finding out the things that, I mean, what I want to do with life and kind of what makes me happy and all that, is the traveling, the doing stuff, the doing whatever you want to do, breaking away from something that you feel like you can't do. If you feel like you can't get away from that job, you can't go on vacation, you can't go to the places that you want to see. When in reality, what you can't do is get that time back. You can't go back and you can wish as hard as you can that you did something, but you can't change it. You can't get that time back. You can't go back in time and do those things that you wish you would have done. And so the two-part process is explained in this whole, I guess it's a 3-point process. The third on the totem pole would be that I didn't do a show. I'm sorry about it. I was sitting at a hospice house, literally sun up to sundown last week. So I hope that you guys can bear with me for not putting a show out during that. But the other two reasons behind that is that seeing this change in myself, going through this stuff and getting out, traveling, doing the things that I wanted to, getting away from that job, finding a way to make an income. Granted, I had some other things set up, and I do a lot of things behind the scenes, like different investment accounts and different ways to invest that money to where your money makes money. Shout out Zach Tussle. He can help you with some of that as well. But this podcast was a big part of it. So, like, I announced for Mideast, and then I work with the podcast, and I do all that. I'm not making near the money that I was, like, just to be frank, be honest with you, I'm not. But I'm making it. I'm living. I'm surviving. My bills are getting paid. I got this shop right here, and trying to grow things, trying to get back on track. But the money can be made. I can start applying for jobs this afternoon if I wanted to. But like I said, I can't get this time back. And that was my biggest sentiment. The whole time traveling through California, that's what I was sitting there thinking to myself. And like it or not that I'm talking about it on a dirt bike podcast, it is what it is. This is kind of my internal dialogue and things that I wanted to get out and express, and maybe I can inspire someone out there to do something. So if you are upset that I'm not talking about dirt bikes, I'm talking about myself, I'm sorry. But unfortunately for you, I have built this platform where I have a way to speak about it. And so for me, it does a lot of justification to it. So that's my point, is like, if you think that there's something out there that you want to do it. Don't wake up when you're 60 years old and find out that you can. Or don't wake up when the kids, the wife, the family, whatever you have that may be holding you back, don't look at it with regrets. Money comes and goes. I've kind of put myself in a bad spot by doing this for the past year, but now it's the motivation to keep this thing going and to keep this growing and to keep these businesses growing and to figure out ways to do it. Because there's one thing that I found out, and it's having this freedom to be able to do these things is irreplaceable. And I guess I realized that there was more to life than, like, yeah, I had a good job, made good money, was setting myself up perfectly for the future, but like I said, I was just miserable every day. So that whole trip to California, I just wanted to maybe, like I said, inspire you to maybe drop some things, maybe change some priorities, maybe that thing that you've been planning on doing, like, hey, let it go by the wayside. You need to do a project at your house, do it next month. Take this free weekend that you have to go do something you've been wanting to do. That rainy day fund that you got in case your AC goes out. Spend a couple $100 of it. That credit, well, I don't want to get into the credit cards. If you must do a credit card, then do it, put it on a credit card, pay it off in a timely and respectable manner. I'm not a fan of credit cards. I hate credit cards. I hate debt. So I'm not saying go out and blow a credit card to do one of these things. But just that disclaimer. But you know what I mean? Take some time to smell the flowers. I think that's one thing that I've kind of learned in life by watching specifically, like, my dad work as hard as he worked. It instilled in me a really good work ethic, and that is why I was able to win a state championship in wrestling. And I believe that is also the same thing that allowed me to accomplish everything that I have in life. But the flip side of that work ethic is I've seen him work from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. my entire life. And now you get older, you get health issues, your body starts breaking down, you get surgery here, surgery there. And most of all of us have broken a ton of bones anyway, so we're already starting out behind the 8 ball. And then by then it's like, how much can you enjoy stuff? And so I got the good work ethic from it, but I also got the flip side of it where I kind of try to stop and smell the roses while we're young and in the moment and able to. So that was a really long rant. I didn't plan any of it. Sorry that it took this long, but yeah, man, it's crazy how fast life goes, and you have that power to go do the things that you want and do the responsible stuff later, man. And I'm not saying go out and quit your job and try to do a podcast. At this point, I'm not sure if I would recommend it. Ask me in a year or two, and then we'll discuss it again from there. But at this point, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you don't want to take that drastic step, do something small. Do that one thing that you've been wanting to do. Go see that waterfall you've been wanting to do. Go to that concert that you've been wanting to go to. Do something for yourself. Not what your parents would want you to do. Not what your coworkers would want you to do. Go out and do what you would want to do, because it could make all the difference in the world on your outlook and your mindset. And so that's mainly the first part of it. The second part of it is dealing with death. It's never an easy thing, and it can happen to anybody. Grandparents get old and they die. That's just what happens. But everyone around and being put in that perspective, it makes you realize how precious life really is when you get to that point with someone that has lived their life and you start reminiscing, going down memory lane. What are our best memories? What places did we go to? What places did we want to go to? And that is, combined with coming off the best trip that I ever did, to be put into that situation, it's like, it just, for me, it put it in perspective about the road that I'm on personally. And I don't know, it's just, like I said, I felt this weird thing to just kind of talk about it. And yeah, I don't know. Just puts it in perspective. So sorry for this long rant. I don't even really have like a nice little conclusion to bring it all together and tie it together with a little bow. But just my personal experience, and like I said, I know you came on here to hear about dirt bikes, and this is not about dirt bikes, but man, it all ties together. So I hope that it can cause somebody somewhere out there to kind of think about things and, go from there. Like I said, I don't know how to tie this thing together, so I'm just going to end it there. Don't know if any of that made sense. Sorry for the rant. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to On the Pipe Podcast. We're going to get this show back on track. We're going to get our schedule back up and going, and we're going to bring it all to you. And we couldn't do that without our good buddies over at Beta Motorcycles. I did stop by the Beta USA facility in Paso Robles, California. It was on a Saturday, though, so there was no one there to greet me. But I was there. I saw it, took a picture to prove it. But Beta Motorcycles, as you all know, they have been the official manufacturer of On the Pipe Podcast. They are family-owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta motorcycles are the best looking bikes on the market, and they back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models. Find a dealer near you to get yours today. I'm excited to get in my Beta motorcycle and do some riding. I almost raced this past weekend, but at the last moment I didn't, because I literally was fresh off an airplane. I've been drinking soda and eating like crap all week, wasn't hydrated. Didn't seem like, the best time to race a motorcycle, but if I was going to race a motorcycle dehydrated and out of shape, it would be a Beta motorcycle because it's rideability. It does all the work for you pretty much. This episode is also brought to you in part by Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. Zach is a racer and a financial advisor. He can help you win when it comes to retirement and financial planning. If you want to know how to save and invest for your future, or you're already retired and need advice on your income during retirement, Zach Tussle is always my first recommendation. Go to financialadvisorsdenvernc.com or search for Zach on the socials. Let him know you listen to OTP, and you'll be able to get a free consultation to how he can help, why he can help, and what he can do to help you. Reach out, financialadvisorsdenvernc.com. Let's get into the past weekend. The weekend that was not this past weekend. It was the one before that. There was a national enduro where Craig DeLong finally got the monkey off his back and got his first overall national enduro win. What a season Craig DeLong is having. His first GNCC win comes in the same season as his first national enduro win. The man has made it. He's there. He's knocking on the door, and he's winning the Dragon's Back National Enduro that was up in Virginia. So Craig DeLong started off the day strong, won the first 3 tests of the day, and after that, hey man, cruise, maintain, make your way to that win. So 3 straight test wins to start the day off, and holds on to that lead throughout the rest of the day and grabs the overall win. So shout out Craig DeLong. Nicely done. Ricky Russell, who has been a man on fire as well that we've been seeing here as of late. Really coming back strong after an injury last season to finish out the season strong, carrying that momentum straight into this season. He gets a second place finish on that oh-so-familiar Yamaha. He is the one that broke Craig DeLong's test winning streak by winning test number 4. But his consistent riding throughout the day would get him second place on the day. And then Ryder Lafferty ends the day with an overall podium, a 3rd place finish. No test wins of his own, but consistent times throughout the day. 2, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2. So Consistent rides for Ryder Lafferty puts him up on the box with a third-place finish on the day. Checking down to the Pro 2 class, Thorne Devlin. Shout out Thorne Devlin. Thorne Devlin is one of those guys that is living his life and having fun, too. If you don't follow Thorne on the socials, you should. I think we did a rant about it a couple months ago, talking about all the stuff he posts, all the stuff he does. Obviously, his training program, whatever he's found for his mental clarity or what have you, is working because he goes out and gets a Pro 2 win in the National Enduro. So, shout out Thorne. It was awesome to see that happen. Our buddy, our beta brother, Jonathan Johnson, ends the day second place in the Pro 2 class, getting it done on that Beta 2 smoke. And then Bubs Tasha will be your final podium position in the Pro 2 class for that National Enduro. And then the top amateur of the day was none other than Dylan De La Cruz, who is also my favorite name to announce when it comes to announcing because it's fun to say, Dylan De La Cruz. Jack Walker, second place in the top AM spot, and then Ryan Piper piped it up, 250A class winner and third overall amateur. As we look now at our women's elite class, Mackenzie Tricker, back-to-back-to-back champion of the National Enduro Series. She grabs the overall women's class win herself once again. Corey Steed will hold on for a second place finish, and Rachel Guttish will round out the women's elite podium there at the Dragon's Back National Enduro for the women's pro riders. Out west, it was the National Hare and Hound, the AMA National Hare and Hound Championship. So two different loops that they are racing out there combines for an overall score. Tyler Lynn grabbed the overall win in that one. So Tyler Lynn, your overall winner. Pulling it back up here. So he grabs the overall win on that Kawasaki. Zane Roberts would be the second fastest rider on combined times throughout the day, and Dalton Shirey will round out the overall podium. So that is how it shook out at the Cherry Creek National Hare and Hound out west. And you take a look at the Pro 2 class, Clayton Roberts was able to get it done with the win in that Pro 2 class. DJ Weber, your second place rider on the day, and Robbie shot himself all the way up to a podium spot right in front of his teammate Mason Ottersberg. So it sounds like it was a battle between Mason Ottersberg and Robbie Schott heading into that to the final podium position there. But Robbie Schott is going to beat out his Sherco teammate Mason Ottersberg to get on the podium and keep the Sherco streak alive on those podiums. But that is, I believe, from reading Mason's post on Instagram, that they were just 3 and done. So they raced the first 3, and I don't think that they're going to be returning to the National Hare and Hound. It sounds like they were doing it for a little bit of testing, but it was cool to see some success from out there while they were doing it. Looking at the women's class in the National Hare and Hound, Rachel Stout is the stout one on the box, grabbing the number 1 spot. Ty Woolslayer in the number 2 spot, and then Emma Dunn will hold on for the final overall podium position in that women's pro class. So that was the weekend before last. We're going to move into this weekend, as in just a few days ago, and we're going to start things off with we'll start with the National Grand Prix Championship, NGPC, if you will. Taking the overall win, it was Dante Oliveira who grabbed the win on that factory KTM. Alston Walton was in the number 2 spot, and Tyler Lynn is who rounded out the overall podium there in Delta. That's what it says, Delta. That's where they were racing at. The NGPC series. So that's your top 3 overall. You take a look at the Pro 2 class. Cade Tinker Walker is your Pro 2 winner. Pull it back up to the overall here. So Cade Tinkler Walker, 6th place overall on the day, 1st place in that Pro 2 class. Checking the number 2 spot, it was Kai Iao. Kai Iao. I prepared for this. I planned for this. It's Iao. In the number 2 spot, and then JP Alvarez will be your final podium earner in that Pro 2 class. And then we take a look at our women's, where there's a couple storylines coming out of the West Coast, the NGPC series in the women's pro class. First, Brandy Richards, who we saw dominate the ISDE 2 years ago in 2021, and we saw her dominating last year's ISDE before ultimately suffering from a crash that took her out of the event this past year in 2022. We saw at the beginning of this year have a bad crash that put her off the bike and out of competition for quite some time. She makes her return to racing at the NGPC with an overall win in that women's pro class. So Brandy Richards is back at it, back in action, and back on the top step of the podium, taking the win out there. In the number 2 spot, it was Ava Silvestri, who also news of her own coming out of it. She announced that she will be on a club team with 2 other men heading into this year's ISDE, and I believe, from what I know, that I think is the first co-ed club team that we've ever put out on an ISDE team. So Ava Silvestri will join one of the ISDE club teams, which I would imagine we could expect Brandy Richards to be on the women's trophy team once again with how much success she has had over at the ISDEs. And then Caitlin Jacobs ends the day in 3rd place overall on the women's pro class podium. So that's how things shook up at the NGPC. And now we'll get into the East Coast. What is going on over here? The GNCC series happening. The John Penton GNCC in Ohio. Coming into this weekend, it was almost impossible to think that we could make it 7 winners in 7 races. It was impossible to think that we would have 6 winners in 6 races. But now, as it goes on and goes on and goes on, it's like, can there really be 7 different winners in 7 different races? Or will somebody double up and be the first 2-event winner of 2023? And just as soon as we think that, reigning and defending overall GNCC champion Jordan Ashburn comes out swinging, and a little bit of ups and downs this year for Jordan Ashburn. But this one is all up to the top step, the center of the box. Jordan Ashburn takes the overall win and does indeed make it 7 different winners in 7 different rounds of GNCC racing, which I think is absolutely absurd. It's crazy. It's awesome. It's cool to see. We witnessed history last year. I know we talked about it, but Ben Kelly tied the GNCC record for 6 straight wins to open the season off. 1 winner in 6 rounds. This year we've had 7 winners in 7 rounds. Absolutely insane. Stu Baylor will end the day in the number 2 spot, so staying up on that GNCC podium and regaining the overall points lead. So Stu, with that 2nd place finish, will now take advantage of a not-so-great race for Ben Kelly. Ben Kelly ended up finishing the day in 33rd overall. I think it was 8th place in XC1, but Stu Baylor takes advantage of that, gets some very valuable points in this championship, moves into the overall lead with the white plate once again, and then Johnny Gerard, who we saw coming off of his first career XC1 win, will end the day with a podium position, just a hair, literally just a hair between him and Josh Strang. So Josh Strang won the last couple Pentons in a row, so coming out with a very strong start and leading and being up front for a while was Josh Strang. Battled down to the wire for that 3rd and final podium spot, but Johnny Gerard is able to edge him out. But speaking of that start, it was pretty much 4 wide coming into it. I went back and looked at Ken Hill's Smug Mug and watched the frame-by-frame pictures. I watched a little bit of on Racer TV as it was happening, but when I went back and looked at the pictures, it really doesn't get any closer than that. And still, I don't know who they gave the whole shot money to. I would imagine it would be Johnny Gerard, because on the broadcast, I think they said Strang got it. And I think Strang ended up pushing to the inside and getting into the overall lead. But it was a toss-up between who got the whole shot. Was it Ricky Russell? Was it Josh Strang? Or was it Johnny Gerard? Because Ricky Russell made an Instagram post with the shot of it with their wheel across the finish line. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, he must be talking about him and Strang. Like, I thought Strang got it. Well, I texted Strang. He said he didn't get the money. But then I looked at that picture again, and Johnny Gerard's wheel is also over the line. And when you look at the pictures side by side on Ken Hill's Smug Mug, you can see that it appears that Johnny Gerard is a little bit ahead of Ricky Russell, but then before they get to the line. And then you get to the spot where they're on the line, and they're both on the line at the same time. It looks like Johnny Girard's tire is a little bit farther over the line than Ricky's tire, but then Ricky ended up carrying the momentum and going through it and getting in a more advantageous position afterwards. So I don't know who got the actual whole shot money. I guess it was Johnny Girard. If it wasn't Ricky, he's making a post about it, and Strang said he didn't get it, so I guess it had to have been Johnny Girard that actually got credited with the whole shot, but that one was a tough one to call, even looking at it frame by frame with the pictures at the end. So, yeah, what a whole shot. What a way to start the race out. And then to keep all the battles going throughout the rest of the race to where that final podium spot literally comes down to the wire. Another thing that came down to the wire was the XC2 battle, and that was between Liam Draper and Cody Barnes. Liam Draper leads the first lap. Cody Barnes leads the second lap. Liam Draper leads the third lap. Cody Barnes leads the fourth lap. And then lap number 5, the one where the checkered flag flies. Cody Barnes was out in front of that one again to take the XC2 win, but Liam Draper was still hot on his heels. So what battles we've been having in the XC2 class as well. Liam Draper been riding his tail off, but so have all of those Phoenix Racing Honda boys. Cody Barnes ticking off the win, grabbing the win at the John Penton GNCC. Liam Draper in the number 2 spot, and then Phoenix Racing Honda teammate Mike Wachowski will end the day on the overall podium with that 3rd place finish. We mentioned a little bit about points. Stu Baylor takes the overall lead in the XC1 class. Craig DeLong in that number 2 spot, and Ben Kelly is going to be in 3rd. But as we take a look here at the XC2 points class, it's as tight as ever. Cody Barnes grabbing the win, moves into the overall points lead himself, with Rui Barbosa taking a 5th place finish on the day and Cody Barnes taking the win. That's going to give Cody Barnes the white plate with 146 points to Rui Barbosa's 145. So 1 point is the difference in our XC2 points leader, Cody Barnes, and his teammate, Rui Barbosa. Liam Draper is going to move into the number 3 spot. So 3rd place overall in points, 134 points. But then it's also close because Gus Reardon is right behind him with 131. And then Ryder Lafferty is just behind that with 127. So less than 20 points from 5th place in the championship to 1st place in the championship. And when you think about the gap being 9 points from 1st to 3rd, 20 points can be made up pretty quickly. So this one is still too close to call. It's going to be a battle down to the wire. Now that we're 7 rounds in, Cody Barnes is the one with the cards in his hand as the points leader here, with Rui Barbosa in 2nd and Liam Draper in 3rd. So we'll be excited to see how the rest of that pans out. I'm excited to watch along. I know that you all have to be excited to watch along as well. But for now, we're going to move into the XC3 class. Dakota DeVore is who took the win there. Jay Lipscomb, running a good race of his own, ends the day with a 2nd place finish in that XC3 class, and then Toby Cleveland in the 3rd place spot. So Dakota DeVore takes the win in XC3. Beta Boy Jay Lipscomb ends the day in 2nd, Toby Cleveland in 3rd. We'll take a look now at our Top Am podium. This week, it was the 250A class that swept the Top Am podium. Gavin Simon takes the 250A class win and top amateur honors overall, coming straight off of a really good ride at J-Day last weekend, too, at Unadilla. So Gavin Simon takes the Top Am honors. JoJo Cunningham still riding on a mangled femur. I guess he's got to be feeling pretty good because he's been riding his tail off. JoJo Cunningham with a number 2 finish, 2nd place 250A, 2nd place Top Am. And then Cooper Jones will be the final podium contender as far as those top amateurs are concerned. We take a look now at the morning race, the WXC class. Rachel Archer would take another win. 5 wins in a row for Rachel Archer. This time she did it in fashion. 16 minutes was the gap between 1st place and 2nd place. In that 2nd place spot, it was Corey Steed that was able to make it happen. And then Preston Rains gets herself a podium. Preston Rains early in her WXC career, clicking off a podium finish. My initial thought was it was her first podium finish, but I think she got on the podium one time last year, I think. Or maybe it was this year. Either way, she was on the podium this past weekend. I know that for sure. So, the John Penton, it is one of those races where I think I've said it on here. I have no desire to ever ride a motorcycle there ever again for the rest of my life. Whether it's one of the hot, dry, dusty ones or whether it's one of the mud ones. That place has just not been good to me. And that dirt is so weird because one corner you'll have all the traction in the world. The next corner, it's like you're riding on snot on a glass floor. But the problem is both of those corners look the same. So you never know what you're going to get. I've seen people that had to be towed downhill at the Penton GNCC. And by the looks of all the mangled bikes and the videos I saw of the Penton section, it looked like it wasn't very friendly to a lot of the riders this year as well. Obviously, quite friendly to Jordan Ashburn, the reigning and defending champion. Quite friendly to Cody Barnes, who was able to make that pass stick and grab the XC2 win. Obviously, it was favorable to those folks, but it didn't look like it was favorable to a whole lot of other people. But I can't believe that we are 7 rounds into this GNCC series. We'll go back GNCC racing at the Mason-Dixon next weekend. This weekend, I guess I should have been more prepared. I'm not sure what's going on this weekend. I will be at a Mid-East Hare Scramble on the microphone. So if you are around looking for something to do, come out to a Mid-East Hare Scramble. Come hang out and do some racing. That being said, that's going to do it. That's going to wrap up 2 weekends of racing. We're going to line some stuff up to do some interviews this week. If you have any suggestions of who you would like to be interviewed, shoot me a message and let me know. Always looking for new people, especially want to get into like more the amateurs and people with a backstory as well. But we'll also hear from our top pros and everybody that has some stuff going on. But yeah, that is the weekend that was. Thank you guys so much for bearing with me through that very long rant at the beginning. Sorry about it. And thank you for sticking with me, for sticking with On the Pipe Podcast. Appreciate you. With that being said, I guess we will see you later on. Be a friend, tell a friend, let somebody know about the podcast. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time.